And Movers and Shakers is all about giving back to the industry, and that is sharing information. So myself personally, I am passionate about training and education. Without further ado, we'll ask the first question on the list, and that question will be an amusing question.
Absolutely. An amusing story on my career is how I got into it. I was a teacher. I am still a certified K-12 music teacher in the state of New Jersey. And through the fact that they only worked 10 months a year, I only got paid 10 months a year. So I needed to do something for those other 2 months because I didn't want to not be earning income. This was before I had any children. I was newly married, so I was, a newlywed with all these really cool ambitions and teaching and bringing my kids places because I didn't have any of my own, so I could bring my school kids everywhere. And in the summertime, I went to work for a builder. And I highly recommend, I'm going to just kind of tack back to the word of advice. Every designer needs to spend quality time with an installer. I'm talking at least a month of regular kitchen installation, planning, visits, install. So anyhow, back to the story. So what happened is during the summer, I was the gopher, because obviously I am not schooled on cabinet installation, so I was the grunt. I was the gopher. Go for coffee, go for tools, go for beauty washers, go for supplies. And it was my job to show up to the job site, unload all the trucks, set up the sawhorses, run power cables, do all that stuff, all the non-technical stuff so that the guys could do the technical thing. I was the not-so-dead man holding up the cabinets, while the technical guys did the plumbing and the shimming and everything else. But at the end, when I showed up at the local lumber yard, I saw this big curtain because I had to pick up Portland cement because we were digging a deck. And so I loaded all these 80-pound bags of Portland into the back of the truck all by myself. I said, "What's this big curtain? There's a road on the other side. Did somebody crash through your wall?" And they said, "No." They said, "We're going to build a kitchen and bath division." And I was like, okay. And they said, "Do you know anything about kitchens and baths?" So I rambled off some tiny little factoids that I had picked up from being on these job sites for several summers in a row. Oh, base cabinets are this high, countertop is this high, backsplash, uppers, da-da-da-da-da. They're like, "Stop. You already know more than us. We're going to send you to an interview with the owner." I got one of those little ortho books on kitchens, not knowing about NKDA or these groups, and I bought this little tiny thin book on kitchens, and I studied it for the interview, and I passed it. I got the job, and I told my husband, "What do? I have a job as a teacher to show up to in September, and here it is. They're offering me a job." And he looked at me and he said, "I think you're ready for a new adventure." And I said, "But I have my tenure. I have the benefits." He said, "We'll figure it out." He goes, "I think you're ready for a new adventure." And so that was my story. And I find out that by talking to all of you, you all have very interesting stories on how you came to be in this industry.
That's a round of applause. Thank you very much for that, Maria. So I guess the moral of the story we said before was to learn, and I guess Maria has self-learned there to get that position. So knowledge is definitely power. So Lisa, can you relay to the group an amusing story that people can learn from?
Cover your... Have your client sign off on everything. Even when I'm sitting there, we're going through colors, and they might have been like coming and gone, "Oh, I really want the white shaker kitchen." No, you don't. But even when we're sitting there, I will ask them, "Is this the color you want? Are you okay to sign off on this right now?" And literally in my notes, I have initials from them noting that that's their selection. So when they're like, "I didn't choose olive white," or olive, you did. So cover your...
Yeah, that's good. Thank you for that,
Yes.
Lisa. I mean, that's a good point, well made there, actually. And I would suggest, if you're in the showroom and the customer comes in, a good tip would be to always say, you can see I'm a kitchen designer, what do you do for a living before you start even talking, because that will help you to sell and help you to look at that kind of detail. If they're a lawyer or a solicitor, terms and conditions are extremely important. I'm going to come into the audience now, so could somebody be brave for me, please, today, and relay a story perhaps in their career they'd like to share with the group?
I'm Matt. I'm not Simon's little brother. I just happen to have the same accent. I'm originally from, actually we were talking earlier, not too far from the same area, but now I live in upstate New York. I got into this industry when I moved over in 2009, and I'd worked in the architectural field, and it was actually not a really good time to move over. And I was lucky enough to walk into a local Home Depot, and basically asked them if they needed a kitchen designer, because it was pretty much close to what I was doing. And I think the first lesson I learned really hard and quick was when somebody came in and I asked what their budget was. And they said $30,000. So I put together a kitchen that was $30,000 worth of cabinets, and I was really proud of it. What I found out really quickly was $30,000 was the installation, the flooring, the countertop, the hardware, the lighting, and that has been something which I now teach very much to anybody that's new coming on board.
One of the amusing stories that did come to mind was, I spent 24 years on the design side of things as a dealer before moving to the manufacturer side, and I've usually got pulled into projects when things got really sideways. And very often I get pulled in and said, these cabinets don't work well, don't understand what's wrong with them. These lift-up cabinets don't stay up. And we don't understand why. Well, the designer decided to take right-hinged cabinets and just turn them sideways. And they said, I kind of like them, but I'd like them to stay up. But I also don't understand why they have these holes all across the bottom and all across the top. And I kept my mouth closed because I didn't want to go, well, that's normally where your shelves go. But that client also thought that the shipping clips that hold the shelves in for shipping were the shelf clips, permanent ones. So they said, I really like these shelf clips, but once you put things on the shelves, they kind of sag. I would like something that's a little bit stronger.
Did you ever have, in the North American market, the white gloss kitchen doors that were covered in a blue film? And the customer says, you sent me a blue kitchen, what's wrong? We're going to be interactive, guys. The next question 2, is what tends to be the main customer frustration when they come into the showroom? Because, of course, the best salespeople say, what is your frustration with your existing kitchen? And what can we do to give you a solution for a better kitchen? So I think, Vanessa, we've got some multiple choice answers here, haven't we?
You get to choose between a worn-out kitchen, a corner storage option, more cabinets, or new appliances. What's their biggest frustration with their existing kitchen or bathroom?
So anybody from the panel like to comment on that? So customer comes in, what's the main frustration, perhaps other than what's on that list?
They don't know where to start.
No idea where to start.
They come in and they go, I don't know where to start. Like, I know I need a new kitchen, but I don't have a clue how to do this.
You get that type of customer, but you also get customers coming in who are experts. They've been on the internet, they know what they think they want, but perhaps it won't work in their application. There's 2 types, isn't there?
Their middle name is Google.
Or HGTV.
And they know it all. What's that?
Or HGTV.
Yeah, or HGTV. And I saw that they did it in a weekend with a $10,000 budget.
Yeah, they think everything's an event.
We can do
they
that.
don't understand the process.
We can do it. They did it in a weekend. Why can't you do that?
Brilliant, guys. Okay, so question 3 is, what's more important for business, being a designer or being a salesperson? So I'm going to ask the panel that question, starting with Dan. So which is more important, Dan?
Salesperson. And let me tell you why. I don't care what your title is. I don't care what you think you do for a job. Every single person in this room is a salesperson. Every person up here on this stage is a salesperson. The guy holding the camera right here is a salesperson. because we're all trying to make somebody believe something else. You go out on a date with somebody, you're selling something. That's part of your role. When you're a designer, if you just think all you're doing is designing, just design, all you're going to do is just push a design, you're not going to have any success. You need to be a salesperson first and understand and grasp that first. That's
Good.
my
Okay,
2
Dan,
cents.
thanks. Maria?
I'm afraid I'm going to roll right along with you. I am going to say that sales is more important because, unfortunately, when you design, it doesn't matter what you've designed if nobody's buying it. Doesn't matter because you're really not putting anything out there unless people are actually willing to pay what it is. And you, whether you're in your own business or whether you work for another company, you're selling yourself every day.
That's great. Good fact.
Totally agree. It's sales and design helps.
Does anybody disagree in the room that'd like to challenge that? Who can I come to? Let me come over here. Lady with the red top.
Let's go.
Catherine.
Yes, I believe it's a collaboration because, again, you have to entice the client, customer. So what sells? Prettiness. What's the prettiness? The designer aspect of it. So I believe it's more of a collaboration versus one thing or another.
I agree that sales is built into everything, but you have to have something to sell. And especially as you kind of move up the food chain in this business, you're selling with your photography, but those are designs that you've done. You're maybe relating what's involved in a design fee that's more than fitting cabinets into a space. It's like we're going to discuss materials. We're going to discuss how these things interact with everything else. We're going to discuss if you don't want any wall cabinets, where the dishes go. And so I think that you do need to sell, but you have to have something to sell, and that's your design experience. And when they see your photography and they understand your explanation and they hear your design experience, that can be what sells them. And we're more of a soft sell, you know, not a hard, you know, if we make this deal today, are you willing to buy it kind of thing. But we do ask the right questions. When are you going to need the cabinets? And we build sales into the design process, but I still think that the design process is key.
Absolutely, and don't get me wrong. When I say we're all salespeople, I'm not talking hard sell at all. In my design career, when I've worked with the end user, when I've worked with, you know, clients in a project of quality, I've worked with builders, you know, that all they care about is the dollar too, and that's, you're selling a price at that point. But when I've worked with clients on a project of quality, I've never sold on price. It's all about wants, needs, desires, pretty pictures, pretty things, and it sells itself. It's always a soft sell, but you're always pushing ideas, and it is collaboration, but you're still pushing idea, you're still guiding them and steering them and kind of getting them to go where you want them to go to a point. Otherwise, here's a piece of paper, tell me what you want, and I'll order it.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Kevin and Dan. Best salespeople, we spoke about salespeople 3 times actually. The best salespeople ask plenty of questions first before delivering the solution. The worst salespeople gabble, talk about benefits and features before even asking any questions. What are the kitchen and bathroom trends for this coming year? What's going to be new? What's going to be big? And I'll start with Dan, please.
My personal take is a lot of the trends we're starting to see now, and a lot of the trends we'll start to see coming up I probably see the next 5 to 7 years are going to be kind of retakes on things that were in the late 70s, early 80s with just new twists on them, because as the millennials and Gen Zs start to get into that position of power and want to feel like they've made it, they're going to want something like their parents and grandparents had, because that's what they're going to associate with that level of success. But they're not going to want honey oak in a cathedral door. They're not going to want partial overlay. They're going to want something like that with their own spin on it.
Good. Thank you for that. Maria?
Hence, is everyone else seeing the resurgence of quarter sawn white oak? Yeah. Right? Hands. Who's seeing? Look at that. Look at all the hands in the room. Return of quarter sawn white oak. Organic finishes, but are you also seeing all these organic finishes, because that's natural, that quarter sawn white oak, with splashes of color? That's what I'm seeing, is pops of wow.
You're talking accent colours, yeah? Within the kit, somebody mentioned blue, yeah?
Right. Blue overtook gray. Remember in 2018 when gray, or 2015 when gray was the hot new neutral? I think it overtook biscuit, right? Or biscuit or beige or whatever that was. And then you saw now in 2018, you saw blue overtake that. And, you know, now I'm just seeing this mishmash and mix. And I don't know what's going to surface and what's going to sink.
What I see coming is actually just more of what the client wants, what makes them happy in their house. Trends, I have people coming in, they're like, oh, I don't want to do what's trending, but I really like this. If you really like it, then do it. You know, give them that freedom. Like, I'm sorry, I was probably 4 years past, but I just put shiplap in my house because I love it.
Make your own trend.
It makes me happy. I look at it and I'm like, I did that.
Anybody else like to comment from the room about what they believe is going to be a big trend for this year? Let me come over here. Who my lovely, what's your name? Deborah.
Hi. I don't know if any of you noticed, but I'm a builder. Number one, we never buy just price. But secondly, color's got their
I didn't mean all.
color's got Nancy. Color's got their vintage colors coming back. The turquoise, pink, different shade of pink than the old pink, but lavender, and really some really cool, there's like 4 new kind of vintage colors that they're reintroducing this year. So I think you're gonna see more color and less white, or maybe if it's white, it's just got something breaking up with it.
It's like Jerry Springer show, this.
No throwing
We're
chairs.
not throwing chairs.
I just wanted to comment on the fact that it's also regional. I'm in northern New England, and we are just getting into our white kitchens. We're a good 10 years behind the trends in the bigger areas. So I had people still asking for oak cabinets when the rest of the country was like, God, no. So it's just kind of interesting that I am getting those blues now as a new color for my area.
How do you ascertain budget, and what methods should you ask? Dan.
When I work with clients, I just flat out ask them, what's your budget for cabinetry? Everybody has a budget. They may not want to share it, but what's your budget? And if they weren't willing to share with me what their budget was, I would say, I can't help you. My time's valuable, their time's valuable. I've heard across my career, you guys probably have too, there's 1,000 ways to get there. You know, I've had people say, yeah, is it $1 million? And they go, oh, no, not $1 million. You can use accountant methods at 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000. They'll stop you when they get uncomfortable. But I would never, ever draw or design anything without 2 critical things. Budget and the list of appliances they're going to purchase.
I'm going to duke it out with Dan. I always design, and people never want to tell me their budget. How many? Never. They never want to tell you the budget. And I mean, yes, we all find a way to get there, right? We all have found our little ways to get that budget out of somebody. But I tell them, look, you want me to shoot a bullseye for you, but I can't if you hide the target. And if I was an architect, I could build you a house for $5 million. I could build you a house for $500,000. Again, if you hide the target, I'm not going to design you what's going to make you happy and what you can afford. Or I'm going to design you something that is going to not satisfy you because you'll look at it and then you'll just feel disappointed that that's what you really wanted, but now you can't afford it. So what happens is I always design without a budget. Always. And what I do is I'm like, fine, that's okay, you don't tell me, because then I get the power seat. I get to tell you what the budget's going to be. So we can design it one of 2 ways. You can either trust me and tell me what you want your budget to be, or that's okay, you don't tell me. You just tell me what you want, and I'll tell you what your budget's going to be.
Okay, so we have an opposite opinion there. So Lisa, what would you say?
Tiebreaker.
I take their budget and I relate it to what feels comfortable to them. So I go, okay, here's your vanity countertop for quartz. You'll probably spend about $900. Are you okay with that? Once I get there okay, then I know where I'm at. So then we move on to the next thing. Okay, if we want to add crown, it's another $2,000. Are you okay with that? And if they say yes, and then you kind of just keep increasing things, and you know where your margins and stuff should be and kind of the average cost. And so as you go on, you keep kind of asking them, and as soon as they kind of get a little quiet, they'll squeak. And then you know you've hit your budget.
Well, that's almost like between the two, really. So that's pretty direct, as Dan suggested.
They
So,
do, they-
to the audience, please, what other methods could you adopt to uncover budget? Who's got a cracking idea they want to share?
way.
Let me come this way. Let me come around here. Let's just come around this side here. A great revelation now coming from Kylie. So you're on.
All right, thanks. Hi, everybody. So when we're talking about it at the beginning, we do it before we start the design with everybody. And so the first time we say, what kind of budget are you looking at? And they'll shoot something out like, 30,000, and we automatically say up to, and it catches them off guard. But the first thing is, there's a lot of psychology in it, and people do not want to tell you their highest budget. I mean, if you're going to buy a kitchen, you're going to think, well, if I tell them $30,000, they're going to come in with a quote of $29,999. So by doing that, it catches them off guard. And then the other thing is, people, a lot of times they want to seem like they have more money, kind of that kind of thing. So they're automatically going to tell you a little bit more high. They'll say 50,000 or 60,000, and then you can start to have that real conversation about what your real budget is, how much you're looking for, and if it really isn't going to be what it needs to be to put in all the things that you've had that conversation with. Because again, by this time we've had that serious talk about all the elements that they want to include. Then we can go from there. But that's the first thing we do.
Is it a good idea to sell to a retired engineer? And if so, what advice could you offer? We'll start with Dan again.
Run, Forrest, run. Airline pilots, no. Engineers, no. Attorneys, no. No. Engineers is a tough one.
I want you to send me all of your engineers. I speak engineer. I love
Speak
it.
their language.
I speak engineer. I love dealing with them. I love their attention to the details. I allow them plenty of time to get what's on their mind out of their mouth. And if you give them the time, they will talk about it. And when they talk about it, their comfort level goes up because they have affirmed that. So I find that with people like that communicate in that style, that engineer style, give them plenty of time, give them plenty of details, and allow them to take it and read it at their own leisure. They will. They want to know that you did all the data research, and if you have and you know your stuff.
I just recently dealt with the engineer as well on a countertop and actually sent him my sign-offs and was like, does this look good to you? Like, here's everything. And yeah, they want every detail, and so as I'm detailing the plans, like I will share them with them. I'll send them pictures of the spec book, as far as what everything goes, because when you get asked how much square foot does your Lazy Susan hold?
Nancy.
And I'm an engineer magnet, it seems. Anybody who can cause a problem or has a problem, I get. So what I find is you just have to prove that your skill, prove that you know what you're talking about, and they then will have the confidence in you. And half the time, they're so detail-oriented, they solve most of the problems for you and makes the job a lot easier.
Question to the panel. We'll start with Lisa this time. Are installers an endangered species?
Yes. My grandfather was a home builder. My dad was a Finnish carpenter. And like even my level of detail, just from working from my father growing up, it's hard to find that today, to where those guys don't know how to use the tools. Now people want it quick, fast, and easy, and good work isn't that.
Maria?
Quick, fast, and easy. Pick two.
Exactly.
There you go. But
I definitely think that they're a dying breed. I'm very sad to see that many schools, especially where I live in New Jersey, have closed down their shops and things like that, where they were teaching skills with tools, and they have foregone that in order of STEM and other things. And not that those other things are bad, but why have we decided to just narrow the field so pointedly towards white-collar work when not everyone is cut out for it, and we are really robbing some people of wonderful opportunities to be successful in their lives. And it's sad to say, I wish that we were over in Europe, where cabinet building and cabinet making is actually a schooled, degreed educational tract. And it's a respected educational tract. You're very respected when you're a furniture maker and a furniture builder and a furniture fitter, as you call them, fitters? Okay, that's a very well-respected thing there over in Europe, and so people wonder why the only person they can get is a non-English speaking person to install their cabinets, because that has not been valued here in American education as much as it has been in European education traditionally.
We're going to come back onto the education side shortly. Before we go on to Dan, can we have a show of hands in the audience? So how many people here have got in their working team installers under the age of 25? I mean, that's pretty shocking, isn't it? So we have a statistic back in the UK that says, like I mentioned earlier, that within 10 years' time, up to a third of installers could have retired, and that's really dangerous. So, Dan, what would you say to this?
Yeah, it is a serious problem. They are an endangered species, so are a lot of the other blue-collar trades. If you don't follow micro, a lot of you guys have seen them probably on Dirty Jobs, but the whole Micro Works, Micro Foundation, I encourage you not only to follow, if you can, donate. He does a lot of great things of sending people to trade schools and promoting that. I'm part of 2 CTE councils for 2 different school districts in spare time that I don't have, just because of this. Just because our schools are not teaching wood trades. They're getting rid of them left and right in favor of just pushing white collar, white collar, white collar. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a whole segment of society that those kids, they don't want to go to college.
But there is something wrong with that.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the white collar job.
So is there anybody here today that actually installs cabinets? Okay. Do we have an installer at the back of the room? Is that correct?
Oh, what would you like?
We're going to get personal.
Go ahead, let's go. Installing cabinets, you got to be pretty good at what you do. Obviously, you try to satisfy everybody, especially your homeowners. It's not like a commercial building where you go in and architects, designers, colors all look pretty. Here, you got to make sure all your crown molding's intact, all your light rails intact, all your fillers are intact. I think quality and craftsmanship is one of the things we got to look at and sell, which is very hard today to find. And just like you said, how many installers do you find that are under the age of 25? I'm retiring from the installing industry, and I'm trying to move forward and direct it. So a lot of my subs, for instance, are in the age of 45, 50 years old. So again, very, very tough.
Whose responsibility is it to try and close this skills gap within your industry? So who should be promoting training, and who should be promoting getting young people to consider a career in installation? So can we start with Dan?
All of us, everybody in this room. Obviously, work as a manufacturer now, and we're doing everything we can as a manufacturer. We employ 400 people at our plant, and we have a hard time bringing skilled people in, and we do everything we can to reach into those high schools and trade schools and colleges and people getting out of the military. But I can tell you that a lot of manufacturers, we haven't done it yet, but a lot of other manufacturers are actually reaching out internationally to other countries and saying, you know, who can we bring in and sponsor to bring into this country to be employees that will actually come and want to learn things. And
Okay, so how many people here in the room, how many retailers employ an installation apprentice? Can we have a show of hands? Or somebody who's learning? That's good. How many? 6? Maybe 4 or 5, 6 people. Right, around the side here. Right, so can you just explain what you've done in your business?
Well, in my business, my husband is the contractor side of it. And where we live, it's a very, very small market of like everything. So getting employees. So what we've had to do is pretty much when we interview anyone who's interested in working, which nowadays no one is, but anyone, just trying to see if there's any background at all. And if there's not, do they have the attitude to want to learn? And our latest guy that we just hired, he has the attitude. And as we started with him, we can see that he's really willing to. So for us, it's all in the interview process of just trying to draw people in to have the good attitude.
Work is hard. Work is really hard. Quick story, though. Can I? Your installer back there that was speaking. What was great is I had an installer come and see me just this past week, and I said to him, "You look a little more stressed out." He goes, "Well, I lost one of my guys." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" It was his son. His son was working with him, and he thought that his son was going to do great, but his son left. You know why? Because he said he made more money working at Uber Eats. Driving for Uber Eats, that he could make more money. I was like, but over the long term? And then what happens when they send him his 1099 at the end of the year? And right, exactly. Work is hard. And no offense, I'm a parent, and I'm a parent of 3 amazing humans, but we are kind of bringing up pansies. They have no toughness left in them to want to get right down and dig in and get dirty, right?
Okay. So I'd like to, everybody, drill down to the detail here. We've got an interactive question from Vanessa coming up. So on your apps, if we could have a look at this next question, please, Vanessa.
Trying.
The question is, to promote our industry, should local business and manufacturers engage with education establishments more than they do, and whose responsibility is it to engage with education? Okay?
Results.
So let's have a look.
Bam. Everyone.
We have manufacturers, 3%, 7% local business, everyone's saying it, which is what Dan said earlier on today. So we all have a responsibility to encourage new people to enter the industry. Number 10. Okay, question 10.
Simon, can I add into that real quick? Sorry. So I am from the great state of Montana, and in Montana, our governor has actually put forth more effort into trade schools, and that's where it starts. Not everybody is made to go to a 4-year college. Like, some people are just made to work with their hands. I relate to this a lot in the sense I grew up doing construction with my dad, so I know how to shingle, I know how to lay concrete, I can sheetrock with the best of them. I can hang cabinets as well, and I've literally thought about hanging up my little 2020 design and putting my dad in the chair and going, okay, Dad, what do I do? How do I hang this up? And create a business off of that.
And that's a great lead into the next, thank you, Lisa, a great lead into the next question. So if I'm in high school and I've heard about this thing called kitchen design or bathroom, how do I break into this industry, and what advice can the panel offer on what that person should do first? So can I start with Maria?
Get in contact with any local business that does it and see what you can glean from them, see what kind of help they need, and dip a toe in. Get on your social media. Get in touch with Crystal. She'll hook you up to somebody. Get in touch with anybody that will hook you up with someone that you can get knowledgeable about it, because as long as you've got the interest, and I've just talked with probably 15 people that I have never even met before in this room today. So many people are willing to help bring someone in. I just sat with 4 lovely ladies, and if I would say that I was an installer and looking for a gig, I guarantee you they would have been like, hey, come on over, let's chat. And so people want to give you that knowledge and that experience and that opportunity, but you've got to be willing to step up and ask for it. And it's hard to know where to go. That's why NKBA is such a great resource because, okay, it's all things kitchens and baths, but then how do you drill down to get where you need? Just pick up the phone, call me, call anybody, call any one of us, call Vanessa. And, there's always somebody willing to share, and that's what's so great about this industry and what I have loved about it for the last 30
So Marie,
years.
You're suggesting approach local business for that initial advice and potential vacancy.
That's right, because that local business is going to want to educate you and bring you into the fold, because we're all, every single one of us, desperate for more people, more talent.
Lisa?
So I relate this to myself. When I was a senior in high school, I took a drafting class for the whole year. The first semester, I was one of 2 girls. The last semester, I was in a class full of guys and just me. And then I let it go. Nobody actually came to me and said, Lisa, you just got A's in both of these classes. You're the only girl. Go get it. So I think that's got to come a little bit from the educators, and hopefully that teaching system comes in. But
that goes back to potentially local business going into schools and education to promote the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Does that happen? Does that happen, guys?
I saw my dad, I saw the hard work side of it. Like, I didn't know this world existed until I started to see it, sadly, on HGTV and was like, I can do that. I can do that.
Excellent.
And here I am.
Dan, any advice you'd like to offer?
Yeah, it's really not a matter of having to break into the business. It's really more of a walk-in, because anybody you ask in any business that's in our industry, we're going to be more than willing to teach and help and educate just about anybody who says, hey, I want to learn.
Call Dan.
Cool Dan. Back in the UK, it's not popular for an installer or a fitter to be able to buy or purchase at the same terms if they haven't got what we call a bricks and mortar showroom. And somebody said to me, Simon, in North America, it's slightly different. So can we see the question, Vanessa? So we're looking at this and we're seeing that 42% say they should be allowed to buy the same products and at the same terms. We've got a 50-50 split, guys. That's pretty much half the room. That's amazing, 50-50. So there's obviously people here buying the same terms that haven't got a showroom potentially, I should imagine. So can we start, please, with...
it says have access to the same. It doesn't say have the same terms. Because I think that's where I have the issue.
Okay.
I'll answer this from a manufacturer's perspective.
Really quick fire.
I say no. Displaying dealers display the product, they invest in the product, they show the product, they should be the ones to have access to the product.
Great. Anybody says opposite to that on the panel? Let's get controversial. Maria's gone very quiet.
I'm kind of I don't mind if somebody has access, but they don't have access to the same terms. If I've put skin in the game and made the investment of time, talent, energy, and expense to be able to have the product there to see, feel, and touch, there's value in that.
Okay. Lisa.
I'm currently designing my second showroom in our second location, and the amount of time that I've had to put into that should be worth something.
Okay. Anybody in the room would like to comment that knows people that haven't got a showroom? David.
So yeah, I lean more on the no side because, like she said, I mean, we've got a lot of skin in the game. I recently, and I'm changing how we do estimates altogether. I'm not giving itemized pricing anymore. I'm padding all my plumbing fixtures prices because clients can go straight to Kohler now on their website and get internet pricing. And I lit Kohler up for that. How can they keep a strong company if all these dealers out there are going to quit displaying their product because they can't make money on their product? So I think the dealers have to be protected. And so that's the dealers that I work with.
The North America market, can we talk about the supply chain? So if I can just ask the panel, maybe starting with Maria, what methods are you adopting to ensure the customer gets the product?
I'm usually providing the product.
So it is good.
So I design it, and I provide it, I recommend it, I sell it to my client.
So you're not getting any supply chain issues where there's shortages?
Oh, well, there's supply chain issues and shortages, and then in a pinch, I may have to move to, take that left turn on Albuquerque and get something else because what I wanted originally for my client and thought would be the best item isn't available. And so in order to keep to a timeline, we've got to make adaptations along the way. But when I put it out to them, I'm like, look, we could wait the 16 weeks for this one particular piece, or we could switch to another option, this one, that's more readily available.
So Lisa, are you finding supply chain issues currently, or is everything good?
It's gotten a lot better, but they're still there. I actually have cabinets that should have been here the 27th, and I'm still waiting. But to me, it's over communication. Like, you just have to communicate, and kind of give yourself that extra week just in case. And then when they show up a week early, you're the hero.
Okay, so Dan, are we back to pre-pandemic levels, or is it still good, still bad?
It's pretty much straightened itself out. We had to increase our purchases, and I mean, all of our panel products, exterior panel products and everything all come from Italy and Austria, and we just had to increase our purchases and bring them in. One thing domestically we had to do is we actually created our own long-haul trucking company and purchased, I think we're up to 10 Mack semi-trucks now, just because at least we could be in control of our own trucks.
Okay.
I will say it's put a lot of strain on our warehouse, because instead of being able to ship directly to a project, we'll have entire projects held up on something stupid like grout or trim. So we started, if we can't get a complete cabinet order, or they can't hold them on the project, maybe it's not temperature controlled, then we'll bring them to the warehouse. Things are more likely to get damaged, unfortunately. And then we're holding tile and, all kinds of materials for these projects that in the past we wouldn't have, and it's been a problem.
How are customers dealing with price rises currently? Okay.
We haven't noticed a single complaint all the way through this, and we haven't raised prices insanely. We've just raised them as we've had to just stay above our price increases. Now, from a manufacturer's perspective, when we had the COVID surge, as all of you guys saw lead times push way out from your cabinet suppliers, and lead times get out, 14, 16, 18 weeks. When raw material suppliers say, oh, by the way, your plywood prices went up 35%, manufacturers feel that instantly.
They're definitely willing to lower their level of investment, and I blame that on the pandemic because of all the pent-up demand for travel. I think people generally love to travel, and I think that when they were at home, and I don't know about you all, but my business surged through the roof. And I just finished having the best year I've ever had in my entire professional 30-year career. And for that, I've been wearing a tiara every day. He saw it on his conference call. I wear a tiara in my office every day for the entire month of, I know, I love her.
So
my entire month of January.
So Maria's in a positive impact, so she's actually sold more value because of it. So Lisa, very briefly, because time is against us, so what impact has price changes had on your customers?
The price has definitely increased, and especially with certain lines, so I do have to look at other cabinet lines that I use, but I also think my job is in showing the value of why that costs $20,000 and not $15,000 has really had to improve as well. So
everybody, so what changes do you see the industry in terms of technology? So return to line drawings, one-stop manufacturer to installation solution, greater virtual reality, which is technology, selling on Zoom Teams, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So what does the survey says? The survey says greater virtual reality, which I totally agree with, actually. Yeah. Has anybody got an experience of selling during the pandemic online they'd like to share very briefly?
My firm is strictly virtual, and so we do sell using virtual tours and very photorealistic renderings that we take a lot of time to make sure our materials do look like the realistic renderings, materials. And so I can see that people are more confident when, at the very end of their project, I send them a sample package. So they get a package from like Material Bank that has all the products that I'm using, all the colors, all the tile and everything, and then they're very confident going forward with that design, virtually.
Does the panel think that there is opportunity for UK manufacturers to come to North America?
I think one of the challenges, and I think certain manufacturers, for instance, like Nobilia, have seen it, and other manufacturers that come over have seen it. In the US, we don't have kitchen systems. and it's just mass customization. And I think that's a challenge and we don't sell worktops. They don't know what worktops are.
Countertops.
A worktop.
More specifically, Maria, to British manufacturers. So is there an opportunity?
I think there's always opportunity, yeah. And I'm noticing that from the New York City market, where things are very minimalistic and things are sleek and clean and frameless, and I'm seeing that spread west as you get to me, where I'm kind of on the border of New Jersey and into Pennsylvania, where things are very still Bucks County colonial all-framed cabinets. I'm noticing that more desire for modern and sleek is definitely coming. So there's opportunity there.
Okay. Lisa?
I think there's definitely the opportunity to come over, and I think it's because of us being able to see that through Instagram, through Facebook. We're seeing what's happening over there to where we want it.
Great, okay, good, thank you for that. So last question, everybody. This is going to put to the audience first. So I'd like everybody to think about who's giving back to the industry.
I'll be a bit bold and say generational. So I came into the business because of my dad. So I think a lot of the people that take the opportunity to encourage younger generations, saying selling a box is not the same thing as it, working in groceries, because that's where I came from. So I think a big part of that also to you is your dad was a builder. You got to see it firsthand. So I would say there's going to be a generational gap where people don't want to learn, but yet there's plenty of generations like our grandparents and parents that want to tell us and teach us. But
Dan, who do you admire in the industry and why?
Well, and it's not because he used to write my payroll, but I mean, person who founded the company I work for is Steve Bell. Fantastic gentleman. And he takes a portion of, to this day, a portion of our earnings and donates back to the community.
That's very good.
Fantastic person.
Thank you for that. Maria?
Who do I admire in the industry? My God, there's so many. I'm going to bring out two people that I can think of, and they are just people working out in the field, hammering it every day. I'm going to bring out a designer from Virginia named Ebony Stevenson, who is bringing to light the inequality of our design community and the things that we need to do to get it back together to be a better, kinder, more global community.
That's lovely words. Lisa?
One of my favorite kitchen designers is Sarah Robertson with Studio Dearborn in New York. I actually got to meet her back in 2020 before the world shut down. Wonderful person, and she's, I think, really put it out there on social media. She's on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and when even I asked her, I was like, should I be on TikTok? And she's like yesterday.
Very, very good. So everybody, thank you very much to yourselves that participated, and thank you to our panel of experts. Thank you.